Open a copy of the Hebrew Bible and you'll notice a lot of sevens. God creates the heavens and the earth in 7 days, resting on the seventh. Before the great flood, Noah brings 7 pairs of every clean animal onto the ark. When conquering the city of Jericho, the Israelites march around the city for 7 days, once per day, except on the 7th day when they walk around the city 7 times. So what's with the number 7? Is it sacred? The number 7's special status actually predates the Hebrew Bible. The Israelites inherited this idea from ancient Near Eastern cultures, like the Sumerians, Babylonians, and Canaanites. According to the Hebrew Bible scholar Denise Flanders, who wrote the most recent study on the use of numbers in the Hebrew Bible, the number 7 appears again and again in ancient Near Eastern literature, hymns, and incantations, where it often symbolizes wholeness, completeness, or totality. The most explicit example of this is a bilingual Sumerian and Akkadian text, which translates the Sumerian word for 7 with the Akkadian word for totality or world. And we probably see this symbolism in just how often spans of time add up to 7 days or 7 years in Mesopotamian literature. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, there's a story of a catastrophic flood lasting 7 days. In this story, a man named Utnapishtim builds a boat to endure the flood. And when the boat finally settles on a mountain named Nisir, he releases a dove to seek out dry land on the 7th day. In this story, the 7th day symbolizes completeness or fullness of time. It's the amount of time required for the flood to do its thing, and the amount of time required to wait before releasing a dove to scout for dry land. The text gradually builds up to heighten this sense of fulfillment. 1 day, a 2nd day, Mount Nisir held the ship fast. A 3rd day, a 4th day, Mount Nisir held the ship fast. A 5th and a 6th, Mount Nisir held the ship fast. When the 7th day arrived, I sent forth and set free a dove. This constant repetition of the days, culminating in the 7th day, emphasizes the number 7's symbolism of completion or totality. We also see this in Akkadian incantation texts, where you'll often find the phrase, "My transgressions are 7, my curses are 7." 7 is not meant to be taken literally here. It's not saying, oh, I've sinned precisely 7 times. It means my transgressions and curses are manifold, all-encompassing. Demons also come in packs of 7 in Babylonian demonology, like what we see on this Neo-Assyrian amulet against the demon Lamashtu, with 7 animal-headed demons on the upper register. The Babylonian text called the Era Epic mentions the 7, a group of disaster-causing demonic gods. According to the scholar Eckhart Otto, the number 7 in these examples underscores the comprehensive evil nature of demons, the totality of dangers they could present to humans. Potentially related to the symbolism of totality, the number 7 also functions as an intensifier, enhancing the qualities and characteristics of various things. Consider this Sumerian proverb, "A lie multiplies 7 times." This actually may be one of the earliest references to the special number 7, dating to around 2500 BCE. This is the Bronze Age version of saying that a lie spreads faster than the truth. By saying a lie multiplies 7 times, it's saying it will multiply a lot. The scholar Arvid Kapelrud says that the number 7 was the number in which everything concentrated itself fully. Saying 7 was like saying maximum. He mentions Canaanite texts that mention famines lasting 7 years, suggesting that the 7-year time frame is meant to be read symbolically as a very severe famine, and not necessarily as a literal duration of time. We also see this in the Amarna letters, which were correspondences sent between the Egyptian pharaoh and the vassal kings in Canaan. The Canaanite vassals are constantly sucking up to the pharaoh, saying, "I fall at the feet of the king 7 times and 7 times." Here the number 7 functions as an intensifier. I fall at the feet of the king to the max. So returning to the 7s in the Hebrew Bible, we see this theme of completeness, fulfillment, and totality. After creating the heavens and the earth, God rests on the 7th day, having completed the ultimate task. Same with marching around Jericho 7 times on the 7th day, signifying the completion of the conquest, the fulfillment of God's promise. In the book of Job, Job has 7 sons and 7,000 sheep. In other words, the size of Job's family and wealth symbolizes the ideal complete family. We also see the symbolic meaning of severity or intensity. In Genesis chapter 4, God warns that anyone who kills Cain will suffer a 7-fold vengeance. In other words, that person will suffer the maximum punishment. So the Hebrew Bible reflects the symbolism of the number 7 that was shared across the region during the Bronze and Iron Ages. Now, to be fair, the number 7 does not always have a clear symbolic interpretation. The scholar Adela Yarbrough Collins points out that a lot of instances of 7 are ambiguous and could be easily explained in a variety of ways. But even if this sense of totality or intensity isn't always present, there's no doubt that 7 was a special number in the ancient Near East, and this special status in the Hebrew Bible solidified its place within Judaism. The 7 branches of the menorah in the Jerusalem temple, the weekly observance of Shabbat on the 7th day of the week. The Jewish philosopher Philo says that the number 7 is perfection-bringing, by which he meant all of reality is structured around patterns of 7. Later, Christianity also inherited this special status. The 7 deadly sins, the 7 archangels. 7 appears everywhere in the New Testament, like how the Gospel of John is structured around 7 miracles performed by Jesus. The book of Revelation also loves the number 7. There are 7 churches, 7 lampstands, 7 seals, 7 angels with 7 trumpets, 7 plagues, and 7 bowls of wrath. Just to name 7. 7 becomes a big deal in Islam as well. During the pilgrimage to Mecca, pilgrims must circle the Kaaba 7 times, walk between the hills of Safa and Marwa 7 times, and during the ritual called the Stoning of the Devil, pilgrims throw 7 stones against a wall. Now, the number 7's special status in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam can be explained as something inherited from the Hebrew Bible, a common element shared among Abrahamic religions, but the special status of 7 appears in other cultures as well. For example, the Greek statesman and philosopher Solon argued that human life was divided into 7-year intervals. The Roman philosopher Varro wrote a treatise on the number 7, pointing out how it appeared everywhere. The 7 stars in the Great Bear constellation, the 7 stars of the Pleiades, the moon cycle being 4 weeks of 7 days. 7 is a significant number in the Hindu sacred texts called the Vedas, which mentions 7 regions of the earth, 7 seas, and 7 rivers. In Buddhism, the Sanskrit epic poem called the Buddha Charita references a legend about the birth of the Buddha. When he was born, he walked 7 steps with dignity, and announced, "As this birth is a Buddha's birth, it is my last birth. Just in this one birth I shall save all." The Buddha's 7 steps became a common feature in Buddhist art. So is the sacred number 7 a cross-cultural phenomenon? Possibly, but we shouldn't get too carried away. 7 is not a big deal in all cultures. The number 5 plays a bigger role in Chinese religion, like in the 5 phases of Chinese correlative cosmology. The number 4 is significant among some indigenous people groups in the Americas. If you're looking for 7s, you'll find 7s, but this doesn't necessarily mean it's anything more than confirmation bias. But even if we focus only on Near Eastern cultures, historians are not 100% sure why the number 7 came to be viewed as special. When researching this video, I came across 3 theories. The first is based in ancient math. The number 7 might have stood out to the ancient Babylonians because they used what's called a sexagesimal numeral system. This is a way of counting and performing arithmetic that uses powers of the number 60 as its base. 60 is a practical number for this because it can be evenly divided by several smaller numbers, making it a very convenient number for fraction-free calculations in astronomy or measuring angles while you're constructing your next ziggurat. 7 is not one of those divisors, though. When you try to divide 60 by 7, you get an annoying repeating decimal. In fact, it's the first whole number to do this. 60 can be evenly divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and only once you reach 7 do you get that annoying decimal. As the theory goes, this made the number 7 stand out as special. Another theory is from the world of cognitive science. In a 1956 paper, The Magical Number 7 + or - 2, the psychologist George Miller argued that the average number of objects a person can hold in short-term memory is about 7, + or - 2, hence the title. In other words, most people can retain and process between 5 and 9 chunks of information at a time. By the way, chunk is the technical term that he uses in the paper, and I think that's great. So some people have argued that this may explain the ubiquity of the number 7 across cultures, as a number that's hardwired into human cognition. It's an interesting theory, but it strikes me more based on vibes than actual data. Even Miller himself says it's probably a coincidence. The final theory, which seems to be the most widely accepted theory, is an astronomical explanation. In antiquity, before the invention of the telescope, people noticed that the stars all moved together with the same relative position in the sky. But a few celestial bodies would wander. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. To this they added the Sun and the Moon as well. These are the so-called 7 classical planets, the word planet itself deriving from the Greek word wanderer, because these celestial bodies appeared to wander through the night sky against the backdrop of stars. Scholars such as Richard Elliott Friedman have theorized that this observation led ancient Near Eastern cultures to assign special significance to the number 7.
Why 7? 7 visible heavenly bodies without a telescope.
As far as I can tell, this whole astronomical explanation is also educated speculation. We don't have a specific ancient text or artifact that explicitly says the number 7 is sacred because of the 7 classical planets. But from very early on in ancient Near Eastern history, we have evidence demonstrating that people in Mesopotamia considered the 7 planets to be divine, either gods or manifestations of gods. For example, Shamash was the sun god. The planet Venus was the manifestation of Ishtar. Jupiter was associated with Marduk. And prayers and magical spells often address the 7 planets, or specific planets as gods. Sometimes the 7 planets are even called the gods. Celestial divination or astrology was also a major part of Near Eastern religion, which of course is based in the idea that gods could communicate with humanity through the planets. As the argument goes, with so much of religion and divine communication itself revolving around 7 celestial bodies in the sky, it wouldn't take a huge leap in logic to start associating the number 7 with the sacred, the divine, or cosmic order, with the number 7 seemingly baked into the very structure of the universe. Hey everyone, so we've officially passed 777,000 subscribers. Now I wanted to publish this once we passed 777,777 subscribers, but that would have required sitting at my computer with one hand on the publish button and one hand on the refresh the subscriber count button, which is way too much trouble. But seriously, we've come a long way since that floppy-haired grad student sat down and recorded his first video. Thank you to each and every one of you for subscribing to this channel as we learn more about the world's religions and boost our collective religious literacy. Now, last week I shared how I want to double down on religion for breakfast this year. A lot of YouTubers are taking a step back from their channel, but I want to lean in. And I shared how support on Patreon is vital to make that happen, and we got a huge response. In just a few days, 60 new patrons joined our Patreon community, which is huge. Thank you so much. Patreon support insulates us from the massive fluctuations that we see in advertising revenue. So just for an example, in January 2024, we saw the lowest AdSense revenue we've seen in 4 years, even though views did pretty well in January. But we also saw the biggest influx of patrons to our Patreon community, which helps to smooth out those shocks to our budget and enables us to do what we do. Your support on Patreon helps us at every stage of production. At the start, enabling me to bring on researchers, writers, and fact-checkers. Every Religion for Breakfast video starts as a heavily researched, heavily footnoted script. This video was on the shorter end of the spectrum at just over 2,000 words, though longer videos like my Intro to Taoism video are well over 4,000 or even 5,000 words. It takes a lot of effort and time to do that research, write the script, and implement feedback from subject matter experts. In the post-production phase, your support helps me bring on board editors and animators. So if you believe in our mission to boost religious literacy, and if you feel we bring quality content about religion to this platform, please join our Patreon community. Your support directly contributes to creating these videos and invests in the future of this channel. Click the link in the description below to sign up. Thank you so much for believing in this channel and for your incredible support.